Hey, good morning, everyone. It's Brenda Muller with Muller Marketing, bringing you back for another slice of social media pie. And guys, I am so excited today because I have a fellow marketer on with me, and I get so excited when I get to talk to marketers. And my special guest for today is Carolyn Sauer. Hey, Carolyn, how are you doing this morning?
Hi, Brenda. I'm great. Thanks so much for having me on. How are you?
I am doing great. I've got my coffee. Do you have your coffee, your caffeine, or do you drink tea or water, or what do you drink?
No, I need to be fully caffeinated.
Yeah, right.
This cup, I need to give a shout out. This cup I have had since I was about 19 or 20.
Oh, wow.
My brother got me this set gift for Christmas one year when I was in college, and it's my favorite coffee mug.
Oh,
so
sentimental, right?
So thanks, Billy.
Yeah.
Your cup is famous.
Yeah, it's kind of like you have like your special mugs in the cupboard. This is like one of my favorite. This is Sugar Creek, and they're like
very cute,
an independent coffee roaster, I think in South Carolina, if I'm not mistaken. And but my husband and I will fight over this mug, like whoever gets it first. And I was like, oh, he didn't see it this morning, so I get to grab this one. So, bonus, yeah. So as we get the conversation started here today, I just want to take a moment and welcome our guests. For those of you who are viewing us, you might be watching us on Facebook or YouTube or LinkedIn. And I would love it if you guys could please leave a comment below and let us know where in the world you're watching us from. And if you're drinking a morning beverage, what are you drinking this morning? Now, Carolyn, I'm in my home office. I'm in Fraser, Michigan in Macomb County. Where are you at today?
I am also in my home office, which is also my kitchen, dining room, living room area in Novi, Michigan.
Awesome. And we're kind of like, multitasking our office locations these days, because I would imagine your home office location might at times also be a schoolroom, right? Because we're in virtual learning now.
Yeah, it used to be. So when we first started with the quarantine in March, Brooke took up residence at the dining table. I had, my space at the desk. And the more we got into it, she found more comfort hiding out in her room. She's a teenager, so that's what they do.
Yeah.
And today she had chosen the hybrid option. So today she's actually at school, but she will be home, half the week or 3 days a week, kind of working remotely from her room or someplace within the house. So
great.
Well, but there are a couple other people in the house, so at any time anything could happen. Just fair warning.
And I
go into mom mode.
Yeah, no, on that note too, I always tell people we're in this new kind of day and age of, kind of living from home with the new normal of COVID and all that. So if you need to take care of anything, Carolyn, if a kid loses a Wi-Fi connection and you need to go triage and troubleshoot, feel free, and I will take reign. And same for me. I've actually got my 15-year-old upstairs online learning. He's probably not going to bother me, but if in the event every now and again we have like a technology hiccup or something that happens too, but we just roll with it, right? We just kind of go with it.
We're definitely learning to be adaptable.
Yeah, that's like key. And so Carolyn, you and I, we've known each other for several years. I think we originally met through an MS, Marketing and Sales Executives of Detroit luncheon that was hosted at Walsh College. And then we kind of reconnected about a year or so ago when I was doing a LinkedIn workshop for your group. But most recently, Carolyn and I we see each other just about every weekday morning at, I kid you not, you guys, 6:30 in the morning. And Carolyn, you've been this is an accountability group that we're a part of. You have been a part of this group since day one, if I'm not mistaken, right?
I have. And it's an awesome group. And, for a little while, I think somewhere in the last 25 weeks we've done this, there was a time when I had kind of, had a struggle getting up at 6:30 in the morning, but really found that just having that set time in the morning and that set group and that set appointment really helped to focus my day. And so I would find that on the days that I missed it, I really missed it. But a great group led by Jan Griffiths from Gravitas Detroit. And I'm so thankful that she, started that group. And it's been really great to actually get to know people and build relationships without having to be, face to face. Oh, I see her now. Good morning, Jan.
Yay. So I see. I'm gonna pop up a couple comments from other accountability group partners, if you will, or group members. Catherine is on with us. Hey, Catherine, nice to see you.
Oh, hi, Catherine.
And then Joy is saying, you have too much energy. You two have so much energy, I should say. Well, yeah, because that's when we get on. I'm like 6:30 in the morning, like, bad lighting, no hair makeup. I'm like, and people are like, good morning. I'm like, no, don't talk to me, until we wake up a little bit. But I think there'll be some others. It looks like Kim is on with us. Hey, Kim, thanks for joining.
Hi, Kim.
These are just a couple of our group members, and I'll pull the other comments from other people up later, but I just want to, oops, wrong Christopher. There's actually another Christopher Johnson who's a part of our group, not that one. But if I see anyone else, I'll pop those in as well. And I will continue to show the comments on the screen here. So why don't we, if we could, Carolyn, let's start with, why don't you take a few minutes, tell us a little bit about who you are, what's your business all about, and then we'll get into this discussion. Oh, it's over here. A three-pronged approach to success in any role. But let's start with you introducing yourself, if you will.
Sure. So I've been in the automotive industry for over 21 years, and that's hard for me to admit. And yes, of course, for those of you that are asking, I did start when I was 12.
Of course.
I started with a supplier, North American Lighting, in 1999 as a sales coordinator, and worked there for 15 years in various capacities, increasing responsibilities along the way. So, I started as a sales coordinator and then took on responsibility for system and process improvements and sales administration. From there, I was interested in getting involved in marketing and trend analysis, and eventually moved into sales, which is what I had started off wanting to do there, and left there as a sales account manager. So from there, I went to Hella, which is another automotive lighting supplier, because once you get lighting in your blood, it doesn't leave, and it's very exciting to work on, the bling of the vehicle. Mm-hmm. So I worked there for 5 years. Again, kind of did some similar things. The organization needed some more structure for their sales administration, their forecasting processes, and those kinds of things, but it was at a global level. So that was the draw there, that I could work with a global team and really kind of expand on what I was doing in marketing, not just the trend analysis, but actual, marketing programs and things like that as well. And then when I left there, it was as the global sales director for the lighting division for Ford and FCA accounts. Okay. So that brings me to where I am now. So after 21 years in the supplier realm, I threw my hat in the ring for something a little bit different. And now I am the senior director at Mish Auto, working with Glenn Stevens. Mm-hmm. And it's just something different. And it's really, it kind of, combines a lot of different skills with sales and marketing. And I'm just really passionate about our city and our industry, and really trying to, improve our talent awareness and perception, because the industry has changed so much, and not a lot of young people realize that. So that's what I'm doing now. And my free time, I'm Uber mom. I drive my 15-year-old to all of her activities. She likes to stay busy, so competitive gymnastics, cheer, track, dance. She's very active. So,
you said 15?
So in between my work day, it's very convenient for her now that I'm working remotely, because I can get her everywhere she needs to be.
Oh yeah.
And I know I'll miss that next year when she's driving herself. But
I was just going to say, she's 15.
I spend a lot of my time.
Is she doing the driver's ed, the training stuff yet, Carolyn, or not?
She's starting in November. So I'm really hoping that time passes slowly between now and then, because she's ready. I am so not ready.
Yeah. And my son's 15 too, so we're kind of in that same realm of. I heard this from moms with kids, like as they get older, they become a little bit needier because you have to drive them everywhere until they get independent. And then there's a whole other list of worries in your mind, when they're driving on the road with their friends
I'm not ready for those worries yet. Has your son started driver's training?
No, and we actually. So pre-COVID, he didn't have a job yet, and our rule is he can take driver's ed when he has the money to afford it, because we want to teach him responsibility. So he was supposed to apply for a job back in March, and then everything hit, and he didn't apply for the job. So he actually just got his first job. He's working at a Dairy Queen locally here, but doesn't have enough money yet for his paycheck to get the driver's ed training. But I started looking into it in the meantime, and what I've heard in our area, the local driver's ed school, they're so booked and backed up because of COVID. They couldn't do it for a while, that now they're not even taking any more bookings this year. So we're waiting for things to open up for next year. And then I think you have to pay at the time that you register. So he has to make enough money by then to sign up for it. So we're teaching responsibility here at the Miller
All
household.
Right. No, good job. Good momming.
Well, we do what we can, right? And we learn from each other. Hey, and here's the other Christopher Johnson from our group.
Good morning.
So there's actually two Christopher. I think it's Johnston is the other gentleman I pulled up earlier, but this is the Christopher from our accountability group in the morning. So Christopher, thank you so much for joining. So why don't we go ahead and jump into the conversation here today, Carolyn? And when I invited you on, I said, what do you want to talk about? And you said, hey, let's talk about a three-prong approach to success in any role. And what I heard from you in your background is you've moved your career around, you've been building your career up steadily, and I'm sure you've enjoyed successes, and I'm sure you've had many learnings throughout the year as well. So why is it important to have an approach to success in any role you're in?
Well, I think it's like with anything that you plan, if you don't have a plan and you just let things go, you may succeed, you may not. I think thinking about things in advance and really where you want to go and what you want to do and how you want to contribute to an organization and to your own, personal growth. It's really important to know how to do those things and to set up some strategies. That being said, the three-prong approach I'm going to go over is not something that I really would have been able to talk about when I started my automotive career in 1999. But there are three things that, as I've reflected on my career path over the years, have really stood out as the enablers that led me to the different opportunities that I've had. So I thought I'd like to share those.
Sure, that'd be great. Go ahead and walk us through it.
Okay. So the first one, and this one can sometimes be a little bit controversial. The first one is to free up the time of your boss. So that's something that I've done pretty consistently. Sometimes we get so caught up in our own day-to-day, we're worried about what we're doing and we're so busy and we can't take on anymore. But if you stop and think about it, your boss is responsible for you, for himself, herself, and the rest of their team. So by offering to free up time of your boss, you're doing a couple of things. One is you're really showing that you're a team player, that you understand what is most important for the organization. I want my boss to have time to strategy, to think about where we're going, to think about how we're growing. And so in order for that to take place, that person has to have time to do that. So where can I jump in and take over some responsibilities? So I'm, setting yourself up as a team player, but also you're challenging yourself, right? And taking on some new tasks that maybe aren't written in your one-page job description. But that's okay, because that's how you learn and how you grow. And the reason I say it might be a little bit controversial is because I've worked with obviously a lot of different people. I've had a lot of different team members, and there are a lot of people that will say, like, why would I want to do that? Why would I want to do my boss's job when I'm not getting paid for that? I'm not, getting any reward from that. Well, it's really important not to think that way, because if you want to grow, if you want to in a comfortable job and do the same thing,
right,
that's perfect. But if you really want to grow, those rewards don't come just by waiting for them. You have to do something different to stand out. So if you're going and you're helping your boss and you're taking on additional responsibilities, maybe I'm not going to get paid what my boss is getting paid right now, but the rewards will come later from that. And at the same time, I'm growing in my skill set. So that's
can I ask a question for that? So free up time for your boss. So do you approach your boss and say, hey, what can I help you with? Or do you say, it seems like you're spending a lot of time on this, and I think that's a skill, that's an area I could help you with. Do you offer it? Do you ask? What's the approach? And then I imagine it might be different depending on the boss too, because some bosses might be kind of like control freaks, and other people might be like, yes, thank you, Carolyn. Like, it really depends on the person, right?
Right, for sure. And you have to be careful of that too, right? Because you don't want to be the dumping ground, but you want to be the team player that helps to do that. So for me, I find that if I just ask if I can help, it's not enough, right? Because again, your boss has as many things on his or her mind as you do, and then some, because of the different responsibilities. So if you just say, can I help? They're like, no, I got it.
Yeah, right.
If you can see, you can see where a lot of times they're spending a lot of time, or where they're struggling, or, you're able to identify things like, oh, that's a really cool project that, my boss is working on. I'd like to be involved in that. How can I get involved? So, a lot of times I would just approach I'm going to say him instead of him or her, because my bosses have always been.
Well, and I will say, I appreciate the fact that you're thinking of the gender. Leaders aren't always men; leaders are women too. But
Right.
The reality is, in automotive, it's male dominated still. There are some women, Mary Barra, and others that are taking the reins, but predominantly, and through your history, it's been a male manager, right?
Yes. So I'm going to stick with that.
That pronoun, right?
But yeah, no, I would just ask him, I see that you're overwhelmed with this and this is taking a lot of your time. Where can I jump in to help? Or can I, put together a draft of this proposal and then you can rework it? Can I take a first shot at it? Anything that might just free up some of, their time to kind of help out. So that's one thing that I think is really important. And especially, young professionals coming into it, to be a little bit more open-minded and think about where can you really contribute to the greater good of the team overall.
And that's a really good point too, because most people, like you said, that one-page job description, or they have a task list or something. You're kind of just focused with your blinders on, this is what I'm working on, as opposed to if you're saying, hey, how can you help your boss? I mean, first you got to get through the mindset, help my boss. Why do I want to help? Okay, because it's going to help you to grow. I mean, remember, here's the 3-prong approach to success, not failure, right? Success. But what I like is this is kind of opening up, your mindset and to possibilities, because you need to know, and I put the comment below, ask them, if you can help on a specific project. You need to create some awareness of where can you help? Where do you have a skill set that can benefit your boss and your team? And how does that fit into helping the organization overall? I really like that approach.
Yeah, well, thank you. It's worked well for me. I'm still trying to break down Glenn a little bit. He likes to do a lot of stuff himself. I know I'm totally calling you out right now, Glenn.
Is Glenn on here? Because I haven't seen him comment yet.
I don't know. I know he has a pretty busy meeting schedule today.
Okay. Well, Glenn, if you're on, you got to leave a comment below so we know that you're watching. Okay. So I'm calling him out on it. He's here.
Bring it on. Bring on all of the things.
Yeah.
No, he's great to work with. We've been able to collaborate really well in the short time I've been there, and considering it's remote. So that's exciting.
That's good. Well, it sounds like you've got a good boss. And even if he's not on, we'll give you the playback link so you can share with him later. And maybe he can come on later on and leave a comment on here.
Okay, sounds good.
There you go. All right. So continuing on. So we talked about step 1.
Yeah. So the second one is really to create opportunities for your team. So if you're in a supervisory or management role, I think it's really important to spend time understanding who your team members are, what motivates them, what drives them, where they want to go professionally, how they want to grow personally, to really have an effective team. And so one of the things that I always tried to do is find opportunities for my team to shine. What are they good at? What is their area of expertise? How can we have them as a particular expert, whether it's in, they're an expert in market analysis, or they're an expert in, social media, whatever it is that they kind of become a go-to for a certain aspect or part of what their role is.
Cool.
And that to me is something that personally I've always just found really rewarding. To be quite honest, there are times when it's not super motivating to know that you're putting in all this time and all these hours to help grow the profit of the company. But that's what they're paying you to do, right? So that's what you do. But at the same time, if you can get some personal gratification from it, and that's something I always tried to focus on with my team members, then it's a win for everybody. So while I'm bringing in money for the company, while I'm adding value, I'm helping others on their career path, and I'm helping them identify what their strengths are and where they can go, and not taking all of the credit. If they have an idea, let them run with it. Make sure everyone knows it was their idea. And so I
just want to stop you right there and say, Carolyn, I don't know for anybody else watching right now, but I'm like, this is the kind of manager and leader you want to work for, isn't it, right here? I mean, I just heard her say, don't take credit for their work, right? Let them have ideas and find something that's fulfilling for your team. So how do you figure that out? I mean, are you just kind of observing and watching and seeing what they're good at and saying, hey, it seems like you have a knack for this. Would you like to lean into it a little bit more and take on more in that area? Or are you asking them, is there some particular area that you'd like to expand on? Is there something, how are you nudging them towards finding those additional responsibilities?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So in my roles at NAL and at Hella, there is a performance review process and a goal setting process. And what I typically would do is expand upon that process. So normally you set your goals at the beginning of the year, what you want to do, what you want to achieve. And then a lot of times they get forgotten about until the end of the year, and then you have to do an evaluation. It's like, oh, here's your report card for how you did.
I was supposed to work on that this year. Yeah, how did I do?
Yeah, so here's your report card. Here's how you did. And I never really, that type of approach never resonated with me, right? Yeah. So I would make certain appointment. I would schedule them for the year. So we just set our goals. So now we're going to have 3 meetings between now and the end of the year. And first we're going to talk about, setting the goals, what's important for this position to accomplish, but also what's the personal, what do you want to accomplish? What training do you want? What projects do you want to try to lead? What's important to you? And then having regular check-ins to say, are we doing this? Am I giving you enough free time to be able to work on the projects that you want to develop from? Or are you still stuck doing the day-to-day that we're trying to get you out of? And then how do we move that along? And there were a couple of times in my career path where the team was just functioning really well. And I think at what I would consider like a peak time, I had maybe 10 or 12 direct reports, and we all got on the elevator together and moved up. So you hear a lot, send the elevator back down when you're building your career. I really believed bringing everyone with me. Maybe we're stopping at different floors along the way, but why not all go at the same time? So I really used to try to have, people sit down and say, okay, this is what I want to do, and now let's do it. And then for that, and then the end of the year discussion was much different. It wasn't, this is how you did. It was, how did we achieve this? What do we want to achieve next? What are some areas to grow and develop to be able to get you to that next level career step, and sometimes that meant pushing people out of their comfort zones or doing public speaking. And, I was always just so proud to see what the team members could accomplish when I got out of their way. Yeah. So it was always really exciting. So I think making sure your team can shine is another key to success, because when your team is successful, you're successful as well.
Yeah. And what I really liked about your discussion about the performance review too is, and I put the tip on here, ask your team to include personal goals. I think that's a really important thing, because it's not just about what did you do for the company, but I think this gets them a little bit more invested in their role as well, and engaged with what they're doing. But what I also heard you say is, and maybe in so many words I heard you say this, like you're meeting with them throughout the year, and then at the end of the year, you're kind of like, what did we accomplish? And I always, when I led a team, I always told them when we were sitting down for a mid-year or end of the year performance review, and I would get, sometimes it's like the first time we had done this with a team member because they were new, and they'd be very nervous, and they would sit down. I'm like, are you nervous? And they're like, yeah. I said, you know what? I said, you shouldn't be nervous, because anything we're talking about in here, this should not be the first time you're hearing that. I said, if you're nervous because you're hearing things for the first time, then I'm a bad manager. Because if there's performance issues, we would have already discussed them. If there are things that you're doing awesome and I'm giving you accolades, this should not be the first time that you're hearing. This should not be like 2 points in time where you're hearing these things. These should be like continual conversations throughout the year. So really, this is just like, what have we been talking about all year long? And we're just documenting it at this point. And shame on me as a manager. And I, at the end of the review, I'd always tell them, was there any surprises? Was there anything that came out of the review today?
That's a great question.
And they would be like, sometimes they say, well, there was one thing. And I was like, well, I'm sorry for not sharing with you how much I thought you did a great job on that project. I will be more vocal about those things in the past. Or if there were some additional concern or issues, we would talk about what our action plan was to work against them. But I think it's a little bit of a partnership, don't you, Carolyn, between manager and employee on this?
I do. I really feel like every person on the team has their role. And I think especially like as I've grown professionally over the last 20 years, there's a difference between wanting to try and do everything myself and really understanding how much more effective you can be as a team when you let people lead with their strengths.
Yeah. Yeah, really good point. And you're allowing them to do that because we're not all great at everything, but it's trying to figure out where are we our strongest, where are those strengths, and how we can apply them to the job. And then if there are gaps in the skill sets, is it something that we can learn to add to, or if it's just not, sometimes you just don't have the knack. I mean, I will never be a financial analyst. I'll admit it right here, right? But marketing, social media, I'm your gal, right?
Yes, you are.
All right. So we had just to review here, we had 3-prong approach. I kind of summarize here. Step 1, free up time from your boss. Step number 2, create opportunities for your team. And did we talk about your third step yet? Was that let them shine, or was that incorporated with the second?
No, that was part of the second one.
Okay,
so really giving your team opportunities to shine.
Okay.
And third is a little bit more generic. It's adding value to the organization, or what most people would relate to as solving problems. So for how many of us, it's so easy to go in and talk to your boss or your coworkers and say, this isn't working, this is a terrible process, this takes too long, it could be so much better if we do this or we do that. But how many people take the time to think about what problem do I need to solve and how can we do it, and then bringing in some proposed solutions? So I feel like there are a lot of different ways to do that in, your current role, and to really understand, what are the blocking points, even going back to your team, like what are the blocking points that are keeping your team members from doing what they want to do? And then how do we fix that? How do we automate that? Or how do we do something different? How do we create a new strategy? And probably just to give an example of one thing, and this will tie back to what I'm doing a little bit at Machado now as well, but one of the projects that I worked on at NAL that was really exciting and just trying to solve a problem was creating a year-round internship program.
Cool.
So there were quite a few things we were trying to solve there. So, and I think this again is also especially relevant in the current pandemic, right? Because we are all being asked to do more with less. And that's a common theme, right? Like there are very few times in my career when I can look back and say, I had all the resources I needed. I had all the help I needed. I had all the tools I needed, and it was fantastic. Like that's just not realistic. Like we're always going to be trying to do more with less. It's a quickly advancing industry. And it's really important that we, recognize that and figure out creative ways to solve it. So by creating a year-round internship program, again, we were in that situation where we were kind of shorthanded. We had very little to no bench support for our sales team. So if someone left the organization, didn't have anyone to backfill it with. And so really we kind of looked at what can we do to create bench support, free up some of our workload so that we can focus on what's most important, give back to the community, and help develop young professionals. And, the year-round internship ticked all of those boxes. And it was really exciting to start that, because there are so many companies that look at, internship, that's a summer thing. It's really not. There are a lot of students at commuter colleges, like Walsh, like Oakland University, Wayne State, that are at community colleges that need to work full-time to be able to go to school full-time. And bringing them in for the year-round process allows them to understand the full cycle of business, right? If you just come in for the summer, people are reluctant to let the interns do anything of meaning. They're reluctant to spend the time teaching them or coaching them. But if you can establish something year-round, we found that we were able to get a lot more engagement.
Yeah.
I was able to set a specific job description for that role that incorporated elements from sales and marketing. Some things that were, you're responsible for this. This is you need to do this report. You need to put it out monthly. It also allowed me to train future supervisors because the interns could report to. So it's a great way to kind of look at doing that. And really just implementing that program solved a lot of problems for the organization. And I think that it's, like I said, relevant to today for a couple of things. One, we're trying to always do more with less. And two, as I've been talking to a lot of, the Machado investors, one of the biggest challenges that they're facing is, workforce, getting people into work, getting people back. There's a lot of challenges around that. And so things like interns, they can be as meaningful as you make them. So that's just one example of a problem that you can solve that's also helping others at the same time, and then growing your bench support for when we do go back to growth mode, and we will. We're ready for it.
Yeah,
so
I think it's brilliant. Yeah, and I loved how it's kind of like, okay, well, we don't have a lot of time, money, resources to put a new position into place, nor sometimes like the organization is structured in a way that you cannot add another full-time person to the staff because the structure won't support it. But the intern, it's sometimes, I had the same type of a structure at Walsh. We had an intern at one time, we had 2 interns, and we would pay them minimum wage, but I would always tell them, you're not working for the money, you're working for the experience. And it was a similar process in that the internship would be for up to a year maximum. But what I loved is like you're saying, you're not just getting the work out of the person, they're benefiting from the experience they're gaining from the full business cycle as well. Because I imagine automotive is summer a little bit of a lighter time period, or is it pretty busy all year long?
It's funny because when I started in automotive, we used to have what I thought was a cycle where it would get busier and then it would slow down a little bit in the summer. That just doesn't happen anymore. There's no slowdown, and it's pretty constantly busy. So even, in the summer when the major OEMs are shut down or they're on a break, there are so many new trends in automotive with, autonomous driving and electric vehicles, that there's always someone still trying to work on what's coming up next.
Yeah.
And so having to, work on the short-term and long-term objectives, to me, it's busier now, and it's busier year round.
Yeah. And especially like you said too, with where we are now with COVID, doing more with less. We're all most of us are still working from home. I'm hearing some companies are starting to now bring back people in kind of phases, or come in a couple hours a week, but it's a very reduced workforce that's there. And even then, now we're in this whole, okay, back to school. Okay, well, if you've got school-age children, depending on the school district, it's either completely virtual or partial, or you're having to juggle that. And there's not that same support system that we used to have, in place. We're getting there. We're trying to figure out how to work around it. But I was even thinking, like, today, I really feel any parents that are watching with school-age children watching this today, I really feel for you guys, and we all got to kind of help each other out and circle our wagons, if you will, virtually on this, because it's challenging and today is stressful, and that's why we need our caffeine, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, so I as been pulling these kind of up, and I know you called it a 3-prong approach, not necessarily a stepped approach, but just to kind of summarize for people, the 3 areas you talked about: freeing up time from your boss, brilliant, love that, by the way; creating opportunities for your team, focusing more on the people that you're working with, and then the third was adding value to the organization. And I love that there's 3 different approaches. There's a boss focus, there's a team focus, and then there's an organization focus. All of these things are really benefiting you, Carolyn, or the people that are implementing this as we think about your success in your role. But none of these things are really directly you. These are focused on helping others, right?
Right. And and I guess, when I reflect on it, I feel like, I've always liked the approach of like servant leadership and helping others. And, I apply that as much as I can in my personal life as well. But I just feel like I feel good about myself when I'm helping others. And by helping them, I'm also helping to get where I want to be, and I'm learning and I'm growing along the way. So, it's not really a stepped approach, but to me, like doing all 3 of those things, like they work together.
Yeah. I love it. And it's a great approach to have. I've already gained some new insights. I'm sure the people that are watching us here have as well. And I want to invite you guys, if you're listening right now, whether you're watching this in live or in playback, I would love it if you could leave a comment. If there's a question you have for Carolyn, or just to add to the conversation, if you have some comments on leaders that you worked with, performance reviews, love them, hate them, any kinds of things. But drop your comment in, and I'm going to start to pull up some comments from folks that are watching us here today. And I've been popping them on as you guys have been, saying hi and welcome, and where you've been listening in from. Hey, Shauna made us on. Shauna's part of our group as well. So thank you, Shauna, for watching us. And Arifa just commented here. She's learned from a colleague who's also a woman, to willing of letting others shine and giving them credit. So is that something you're seeing Is it more common to women than men, Carolyn, or have you seen that kind of consistently throughout your career?
It's hard for me to say, I think, because like we talked about earlier, it is a very male dominated industry, but I also know that without the male support I've had, these things wouldn't be possible. But I do think it's more individual. There's a great guy that I worked with at Hella, Ben Cohen, he might be on here, who really has had a lot of the same leadership styles as I have. And that's really give credit where credit is due and take blame when there are failures. And so I don't know if it's a generational thing because I'm younger than I want to be, or if it's, a male versus female thing, but for sure there are different types of managers. And that's why it's really important, I think, when you're looking for your next career step to look at who your boss is and what they stand for and what they represent and how they like to work.
Yeah. And what's that expression too? People don't leave companies, they leave managers, right? It's a philosophy of like, it's really important who you work with, because if you have somebody that supports you in that role, can really help you to be successful in your career. And Shauna had a comment too. I mean, you were earlier, Carolyn, you were talking about meeting with your team. Shauna uses a similar approach where she does a 20-minute one-on-one with her teammates when they're joining her team. Is that something you've kind of implemented as well? Something similar?
I've done, regular one-on-one meetings with the team as well. And, usually I leave it to them to lead it, right? Like I'll set the framework, like, let's talk about, what are your major projects? What are the blocking points that I can help you with? And then, what's next or what's on your mind. So I love that, Shauna. That's perfect.
Yeah.
I think that regular engagement is really what helps build trust. And, that's really crucial for any team.
Awesome. And Krista was commenting on your elevator. It was kind of like an analogy, but it really was. It's like getting on the elevator together. We might be going to I really like that. Was a good kind of analogy in that story there. Maureen commenting on it as well. Thank you guys for jumping in on the conversation. Team that works well. This is kind of just a team that all works well, functions well, supports each other. You're able to achieve more. And I think there's a philosophy out there, in some leadership circles that says lead by fear and intimidation, because you'll get better results in the short term. And there's another philosophy, which is lead by engaging and empowering and inspiring. And I think this is kind of what Heather's alluding to, and what you've been talking about too, Carolyn, right? We can achieve more that way.
Absolutely. And I mean, when I was young in my career, I thought I could do everything myself and I had to do everything myself. And, there wasn't going to be another way to do it. But as you grow and you go through different experiences and see what value other people are adding, it's really amazing. And I think especially now when we have so many, different generations in the workforce, you can learn from people that are younger than you, people that are more seasoned than you. And it's really just so much more effective to get those different perspectives.
Yeah. And I'm just popping a couple of additional comments because I think we're running a bit short on time here on the screen. So Jan commented on your authentic leadership. I can tell. I mean, you guys, can't you tell? Like Carolyn is an authentic leader. I mean, there's the kind of people, Carolyn, too, that they say one thing, right, in front of the camera or on video or whatever, in front of the group. Maybe it's on a Zoom. And then, there's, I mean, because I've been in those meetings, in those rooms, and they say another behind closed doors, and it's kind of like the two-faced. But you just radiate genuine authenticity in terms of your leadership style. And I just want to say thank you for sharing, because you're inspiring so many people on the call here today.
Thank you. It's so awesome to be here.
Yeah. So let's see. Any other questions for you guys? Summer liked your year-round internship. Really liked that approach. Let's see here. Yeah, I agree, Maureen. And I've tried to never have an internship that's not paid. I know a couple of my friends do this where they're like, well, they're gaining the experience from like, can at least cover their gas money, nowadays. But, I agree. So here's a question from Joey. How can we help new employees that don't have the advantage of being with colleagues because of COVID? What are your thoughts there, Jen?
So that's a really good question. And I have a little bit of experience with that because I was a new employee in March, and I worked in the office at Machado for 2 weeks before we all went virtual. So I think it was helpful to get to know people face to face. It was helpful that I had known some of them before anyway, because when I was at Hella, and Hella still is an investor of Machado, so I was involved in the organization at that point. But I think one of the things that helped the most for me was actually just setting up some random coffee Zoom calls, and trying to figure out, knowing who I'm going to work with, what I'm working with them on, or just something that we have in common. And just setting up, a 15, 20-minute call in the morning and saying, hey, who are you? What do you do? Is really helpful and a really good way, to connect with others. It's not the same as face-to-face, but it's nice because you're also getting people in their home environments where they're comfortable. And, they're really willing to share a lot with you. People are busy. They don't want to set up an hour training session for every new person that's coming in. But if you can have them meet with a couple of team members, 15 minutes, 1 day a week, 2 days a week, it's really helpful in understanding the culture of the organization and how you fit into like the bigger piece.
Yeah. So virtual coffee, that's an easy thing to do. And I even Carolyn, when you and we set up the call, and I think I was joking about it in my LinkedIn post yesterday. I'm like, I took off the weekend. I didn't do as much promotion of everything as I wanted. And Carolyn's going to be on with me this morning. And I'm like, it's going to be a Monday, Tuesday. You guys know what I'm talking about? Right. A Monday, Tuesday, where it's like 2 Mondays compressed into one. And I'm like, I'm going to need my grande coffee coming into the morning. But, when we were in the green room, so to speak, before coming into the call, I was like, you got your coffee ready? We're kind of joking about that. But it's like we can just be real. We don't always have to be these stiff, perfect leaders that are representatives of the corporation. Like sometimes it's okay to just be people and be like, hey, my dog's barking. Hold on a second.
Yeah.
Let's settle down Fido before we move on. But having that virtual coffee, similarly to if you're in the office, I think you want to have some socialization on a professional level to make people feel like they are part of the team, right? To make them feel like they're a part.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, awesome.
And honestly, our HR department did an awesome job too with the orientation. They continued with a series of meetings that they had for each area of the company. And so you're also then getting to bond with whoever else is new at the time. And so you can, make some friends and build relationships that way. So I also have to give a shout out to our HR team, at the Detroit Regional Chamber for doing that. That's something that worked really well.
Oh, good. Well, I'm so glad. And I'm not sure if I popped other names on, and you'll probably get the chance to watch the playback later and see everybody, or maybe go to the LinkedIn feed and see all the comments. But hopefully some of those folks, if you were on, you saw your names up on screen. I tried to do my best on popping all the comments up so you could see who is on with us here today. But as we start to wrap here today, I just want to invite you guys, for those of you who are watching, if you haven't left a comment yet, I would love it if you could please leave a comment before you leave here today. Did you enjoy the conversation? Was this helpful? Was this inspirational? Did you pick up a new insight or 2 or 3? I would love it if you could please leave a comment for Carolyn below and just let her know, was this inspirational? Did this help you to kind of kick off your Monday, Tuesday, so to speak, for the week here today? And as we start to wrap here today, Carolyn, I'm going to pop up your LinkedIn URL up on screen as well. Are you open to accepting invitations from those folks that are watching us on the call here today, or what's your kind of philosophy there?
Yes, absolutely. I'm always open to connecting and, being of service if I can to help anyone else out, or just getting to know others that are in the industry or in the community, for sure.
All right. And then Mish Auto, I know you guys are on LinkedIn. I think I'm going to pull it up on screen. Let's see if it's up here. Here's the Mish Auto page on LinkedIn. I'm going to pull up your LinkedIn profile here as well. And what I usually tell people is, when you do connect with someone on LinkedIn, to always include a personal note. So if you guys are watching, and if you do want to invite Carolyn to connect with you, please include a personal note. Let her know that you watched her on the LinkedIn Live show with me here today. If there's something that was memorable, you could include that in the invitation. It helps to kind of jog her memory on there. And then I'm going to also share on this screen here the Mish Auto website. And Carolyn, as we start to kind of finalize the conversation here today, is there anything you guys are working on at Mish Auto right now that we should be aware of? Anything coming up on the horizon, or any other shout outs or last comments before we wrap here?
Yeah, I mean, we actually do have a lot of really cool projects that we're working on in a lot of different areas, including, diversity, equity, and inclusion, advocacy, and talent. This week, we'll be doing Capitol conversations virtually. We usually have a day at the Capitol, but we'll be engaging our investors and allowing them to talk with our legislators. So stay tuned for, any social media posts on that, and some recaps that will probably be posted later on. But if you go to our Work Smart, Play Smart tab, or our Restart, there are a lot of resources there that are helpful for what we're doing today. And of course, we want to encourage everyone to, mask up and stay safe and during this time, so that we can keep manufacturing open and hopefully piece by piece, we're getting there fully. So yeah.
Awesome. And I think we all know it's going to come back. We all know we're going to get back to, I don't want to say where we were from before, because I think things have shifted so much and we've learned a lot about ourselves and how our organizations can be different and can operate in a different environment. But I think we know that these things run in cycles, and we know that we will come out of this, and hopefully we will be a stronger community, a stronger organization, a stronger local economy and nation as well, through all of it.
We will. We're Detroit.
Right. Yay.
Detroit is resilient.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Carolyn. I really enjoyed the conversation with you here today. I just want to say thanks again for coming on with me.
I did too. Thank you so much for having me, Brenda. It was awesome.
All right, great. Well, as we wrap here today, I want to ask you guys that are watching for two things. One is, after you leave the video, I want you to come back into the video and click to share the video with someone in your network. You can share it as a post on Facebook or LinkedIn or Twitter or whatnot, or maybe there's somebody in your network who is struggling with leadership, or maybe they're a new manager, or maybe they're someone who wants to achieve more success in their role. Share the video with them. You never know when that message can help somebody in your network. And the other thing I'd like you to ask you to do is to go to, let me see if I can find the link here, mellermarketing.com/subscribe, where you can join my VIP email list and you'll be notified of future LinkedIn Live conversations like we're having here today. So I'm hearing thunder outside by me, Carolyn, right now. I don't know. Are you having rain by you guys right now too?
We do have rain, no thunder right now. It was thundering earlier though, and I was very concerned. So I'm happy to have gotten through this with no snafus with the Wi-Fi.
Yeah, you said Novi, right?
Yes.
So I think it probably passed by you guys earlier, and I'm east of Carolyn in Metro Detroit. So I think it came over my side of town.
Moving through.
Yeah. All right. Well, it's been a delight. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow morning at 6:30. You always look great on camera, and I've even commented. I think you have like the Zoom. I'm like, is there hair and makeup done? It's like 6:30, you guys. Like, what's going on? But
no. And no, it's funny because when you said that the first time, I was like, that can't be accurate. I literally just rolled out of bed and I figured out that I had somehow altered the settings on the Zoom call to the touch-up feature. Yeah. So I kind of played along. I'm like, yeah, I wake up looking this great every day, but I don't. It's the Zoom feature.
I get up at 5:30 to look great for you guys. Well, anyways, we'll look forward to seeing you online tomorrow morning, Carolyn, and thank you again for joining.
All right. See you then.
All right, guys, stay safe and stay healthy. Thank you so much for watching and for leaving your comments. I look forward to seeing you later on in the week on another edition of Social Media Pie. Take care and have a wonderful week. Thank you.